When the NFL season ends in February, just a couple months later, it starts up again. That's how quick the NFL table turns, and it's turning once again as the NFL will release its 2025 schedule and the Pittsburgh Steelers schedule this evening, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the TroupCast here on oneBURGH. Glad you could join us on our oneBURGH Facebook channel, oneBURGH YouTube, or maybe you're listening back on Spotify. I am your host, Ed Troup. And joining me from KDKA Radio 93.7, The Fan FM, is our good friend Paul Alexander. Paul, welcome back into the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ed. How are you?
Doing good, Paul. And, we're going to start with the NFL releasing its schedule. The one thing that the NFL has done very well is they've figured out never to go away, even during the offseason. As soon as the Super Bowl wraps up in February, just a couple weeks later, they're talking NFL Online, they're talking the free agency period. And it happens in the schedule event, which is now an event. It's a major release happening tonight at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, they're brilliant. Their marketing is insane. They're 365, and there's no better example than here in Pittsburgh. I mean, you host local, sports talk radio. The Steelers are a constant topic, and especially the way they've been handling their business. I mean, Ben's been gone for a while, and it's been this really almost like a Russian roulette with quarterbacks. I mean, it's not been a good situation. And now we have Aaron Rodgers. Is he coming? When's he coming? Is he not coming? And the thing I'm getting a kick out of right now, just the national media's obsession with Mike Tomlin. And I know we're going to get to the Pickens situation, but my goodness, he makes nothing but messes and then gets credit for cleaning it up. I don't understand. The George Pickens draft pick, it was littered with this guy's a character issue. This guy's going to be blah, blah, blah. But Mike Tomlin thinks he walks on water and he's going to fix it. And meanwhile, we had, Antonio Brown, Martavius Brown. We have had just a litany of really bad situations with NFL diva wide receivers. So he drafts another one. And now when he trades him, the national media goes, wow, look at Mike Tomlin. He knows how to fix a problem, doesn't he? Well, no, he knows how to create them. You don't draft that guy. You don't win with that guy. Everybody knew that. He doesn't block for his teammates. He doesn't try. Shows up late for a Christmas Day game. I mean, this guy had, yes, I get the obsession with the talent. I do. We've seen it. I mean, he's exceptional. But you know what? We were talking a little bit before. Give me someone with obviously enough talent to play in the NFL that loves the game, loves to compete, and will give me Hines Ward all day long. Okay? Not a burner, not the biggest, strongest, fastest guy, but who wanted to win, who wanted to get in the end zone, who wanted to block. I mean, they changed the rules for freaking Hines Ward. You're not allowed to crack back block as a wide receiver because of Hines Ward. George Pickens doesn't block. So think about the disparity there. Those are guys you win with. Oh, no, by the way, they did. He was a Super Bowl MVP. You keep drafting guys like George Pickens, we'll go another 10 years without a playoff win, guaranteed. And that's his fault. That's what he does. He drafts these guys. He is the most powerful man in the NFL right now. He's the longest tenured coach in any professional sport. What's he have to show for it? One Super Bowl about 100 years ago. Yeah, I'm a little angry.
It's been a while, Paul. It's been a while, that's for sure. And there's been more misses than hits for the Steelers in drafting the last few years. And you can make the argument that's what's kind of caught up with them here as of late. You talked about the George Pickens trade a little bit. The Dallas, he goes to the Cowboys for a 2026 third-round pick last week, a 2027 fifth-round draft pick, and then the Steelers send Dallas back their 2027 sixth-round draft pick. Pickens' message, I think, just became old the last, especially in the last year, right? In that locker room and around that team, became a toxic player. And with that, he gets traded last week. But I think they tried to deal him during the draft. Nothing really came to surface, at least what they wanted. I think they were looking for a second-round draft pick. They ended up getting a third-round draft pick from the Dallas Cowboys. But I'm one to think, Paul, that something might have happened behind the scenes in the last week that really led this for Omar Khan to pull the trigger on this trade finally. There's been some rumors that maybe he was asking for a contract extension and big money. and the Steelers simply weren't willing to do that. They just were willing to let him play out this last year of that contract and then go in the offseason and eventually leave the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, the rumble is that a lot of the senior, leaders on that Steeler team were like, "No, get this guy out of here. We don't deal with people like this." And I think Cam was a big voice in that. But again, that's not verified. I'm just, that those are things that I'm hearing. Um, I just don't understand when the whole world can see it, takes plays off, doesn't really seem to care. Doesn't. I mean, when we enable people, and that the one pre-draft explanation and little critique of George Pickens was he's been enabled his whole life. And a lot of these superstar athletes, you know, start showing in like eighth and ninth grade. And they're so good and so exceptional. Teachers don't care about their grades. Coaches don't care about how hard they work. People don't. And if you continue to do that, well, this is exactly what you end up with. Um, we need coaches that bring back tough love. There's no better love in the world than tough love. The kind of people that'll tell you, listen, you're not getting it done. You're not doing enough, to get it done. You're not working hard enough. Those are the kind of coaches that get more out of you than you knew you even had. The Bobby Knights of the world, even the Bill Cowers of the world. Those guys, now we're like, well, you don't understand. The athletes are different now. And granted, when Chuck Noll was the head coach, he was the highest paid man in the building. Now the players dwarf the majority of the coaches, so they have what we call a certain kind of money. And I'm not going to go there. This is a family show, but they have that certain kind of money where they don't really care what the coach says. They don't really care what anyone says. And that's a problem. So that's why you have to draft guys with great character that love the game and want to win more than anything in the world. And I think those are hard to find.
Very hard to find, that's for sure. There's less and less of that these days, and more of the alternative that you mentioned. Paul, as I said, the schedule releases tonight. The Steelers and Vikings were just announced. We knew the Steelers were going to be playing a game in Dublin, Ireland this fall, but it was announced that it will be on September 28th against the Minnesota Vikings, which was to be a home game for the Steelers. That'll still be considered a home game in Dublin, Ireland for the Steelers. That'll be a 9:30 a.m. Kickoff here on the Pittsburgh time. The full schedule release will be tonight, though, at 8 o'clock. The Steelers in the AFC North will play the AFC East this year and the NFC North. So it looks like this: home games against the Bills, Dolphins, Packers, the Vikings game in Ireland, and the Seahawks at home. That's the extra game that gets them to 17. And Colts will come to Acrisure Stadium. Of course, the Browns, Bengals, and Ravens as well. Away games will be at Green Bay, at the Patriots, at the Jets, the Bears, the Lions, and the Chargers on the road. Your early thoughts? We don't know when these games are quite yet. Again, that'll be released here tonight. But your early thoughts on the upcoming schedule for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Well, I mean, I think they'll probably go 9-8. May or may not make the playoffs, and then if they do, they'll get blown out. I mean, I've seen the movie. I hate the ending. I mean, it's why would we think anything different's going to happen with this franchise right now? They do the exact same thing every single year. Now, this year they drafted a couple D linemen. All right, way to go. You know, I watched Philadelphia hold the ball for the final 10 minutes of a regular season football game. I watched the Ravens put up 299 yards rushing in a playoff game. And, they're talking about, well, they have Steeler DNA, toughness, physicality. You know what? They're anti that. They haven't been that in so long, it's ridiculous. But my buddy used to say, and it's one of my favorite sayings, you get the reputation as an early riser, you can sleep till noon. Everybody has this impression that the Steelers are in your face tough and they're going to grind it out and their defense is unbelievable and they're this and they're that. They're none of that. They're absolutely none of what they pretend to be or what people assume that they are. Hopefully the draft addressed some of those issues. Hopefully the offensive line now with, Broderick Jones at the left side and, maybe a healthy right tackle. They keep drafting tackles that don't play the position they're drafted for. Maybe now they get people in the right place. They can actually run the football. I love the running back. I do. I think that was a nice pick. But the Steelers just aren't who they pretend to be or who people assume that they are. I mean, Philadelphia is. That's why they won the Super Bowl. They do exactly what the Steelers like aspire to do, but right now the Steelers don't have the roster to be the Eagles. They don't have a quarterback to be the Eagles. They don't have the toughness or the running back to be the Eagles.
Good point there, Paul. And I happen to agree with you as well. Unfortunately, just looking at, this upcoming season, what's happened here in the offseason for the Steelers, 9-8 or 10-7, once again, looks like probably the ceiling for this team. Whether Mason Rudolph's your quarterback or Aaron Rodgers, I still think they're going to be back to that 9-8 or maybe a 10-7 record and another first round exit. Still too early to tell. We got to see what happens, during training camp and into the preseason, into the regular season. But the NFL schedule will be released, as I said, here tonight at 8 o'clock. We're talking with Paul Alexander from KDKA Radio, the Fan 93.7, joining us here on the TroupCast here this week. Paul, let's talk about another great subject here in Pittsburgh, the Major League Baseball team on the North Shore, the Pittsburgh Pirates. They've lost now their second in a row in New York against the Mets. Their record so far this season, when you look at the Bucks, 14-29, fifth place in the NL Central. Derek Sheldon gets fired just about a week ago. Donnie Kelly is brought in as the new manager. He's, of course, a Pittsburgh native of Mount Lebanon and Point Park, played baseball there. He's promoted. He's now the manager, gets thrown out in his second major league game as manager on Saturday, showing some passion. But Don Kelly, I know Donnie. He went to Point Park where I went, had an opportunity to cover him during those 4 years at Point Park. He's a great guy. I think he can be a very good Major League Baseball manager, but he's in a losing situation because there's just not much to work with this ball club.
I don't know how in the world that regime, Ben Cherington's sixth year, and that's the roster that you have after 6 years of tearing it down to the studs, rebuilding it, going after all this young talent. It's pathetic. I mean, if you're hitting over 200 on the Pirates right now, you're their batting champion. I mean, Ryan Reynolds in May is maybe the worst hitter in all of baseball. So I know, the owner is a big problem. The lack of spending is a big problem. But look at the guys they've spent money on. Key Brian Hayes, the weakest hitting third baseman maybe in all of baseball. They give him 70 plus million. Ryan Reynolds over 100 million. And right now, I know he's a notorious slow starter, but I mean, my goodness. I mean, his May he's batting around 100. And last night he had a chance to win that game. He's the guy you want up first and third, 2 outs, late in the ball game, strikes out. I mean, it's pathetic. And I'm rooting like hell for Donnie Kelly. I remember his first spring training trying to make the ball club with the Pirates. I happened to be down there when the game started. And I said to my photographer, I said, let's get the Donnie Kelly feature out of the way. I don't know how long he's going to be here. I didn't think he really had that much of a chance to make the team. So that day that we decided to do it, I said, just focus on him. He goes 3 for 4, has 2 or 3, web gems, outstanding defensive plays. So it was so good. I'm like, wow, that was perfect. It's like he knew we were going to have, this was his day. He did that the entire spring. They had no choice but to keep him on the roster because he hit like that the entire spring. He can play anywhere. He's what? I don't know how many people have played every position on the diamond in Major League Baseball history. He's Neil Walker's brother-in-law, for heaven's sakes. I mean, this guy's pure Pittsburgh. You know him. You love him. I love him. But if he can get this team anywhere near 500, even in just the games he manages, he should be manager of the year, and they should give him a Mike Tomlin lifetime contract. Because I don't know that roster is pathetic. It is awful.
Right.
And when you sign the Phams of the world and all these guys that are just, maybe they were good 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, to a 1-year deal. So, hopefully they catch a little lightning in the bottle and then you can trade them at the deadline for a couple other, it's just, the Pirates are the most frustrating entity in my life, in all seriousness. They're the Washington Generals to the rest of the world's Harlem Globetrotters. Major League Baseball teams like the the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees and all the big spending teams, they need someone to beat. They need someone to, they need someone to draft players for them that they can pay later, like Garrett Cole, and we could go on and on. It's flawed. It's a mess. You know, in the other sports, when you draft a generational talent, they're yours for as long as you want them. They're Mario Lemieux and Sidney Crosby and Ben Roethlisberger. They're a one jersey guy for the life. Not in baseball. No, if you're a small market team and you draft one of the best players in the history of the game, you have him for 5 or 6 years, and then you have to wave bye. That is so messed up on every level that I'm surprised that as many people. We're a great baseball town. You know why? Because we still give a you know what about this god awful baseball team that's trending to lose 107 games this year, at least. So the fact that we have that beautiful ballpark and fans that still care is amazing to me. Because it's real hard to get up, look at a box score, watch a highlight, or even watch a game. Because these guys stink. The Pirates absolutely stink.
Derek Sheldon ends his manager years with the Pirates from 2020 to 2025 with a record of 306, 440, a 41% winning percentage. They finished fifth, fourth, fifth, currently last. 4 full seasons, winning as most 76 games the last 2 years, won 61 and 62 in those first two. You mentioned Donnie Kelly. Just a few stats I thought that were interesting for Donnie Kelly. Played with the Pirates in 2007, as you mentioned, Paul. Then with the Tigers from 09 to 14, the Marlins from 15 to 16. 230 lifetime batting average, 23 home runs, 98 RBIs in 9 seasons in Major League Baseball. A really cool stat that you mentioned. They put him towards the end of his baseball career for an inning in a pitcher. And because he was able to pitch in that game towards the end of his career, as you mentioned, he played all 9 Major League Baseball positions, which I think is a really cool stat for Donnie Kelly. He's a great guy, but I tend to agree with you. I don't think if you brought Jim Leland back, it's going to make a big difference with what's on that field right now for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
No, we like to blame managers. We like to think about this. We never put it on the players. Like you bring in a pitcher in a late inning situation and he gives up the home run or walks the winning run in, you blame the manager. Why don't we ever blame the player? I mean, the player is the one that is supposedly good enough to be there in that situation, but we always blame the manager. And I cannot blame. I mean, I don't know if Derek Shelton can manage or not. I have no idea. I know he can't put out a consistent lineup, but then again, he never had consistent talent where you want to put the same guy in the same place in the order every day because he's always looking for something that might work, some lightning in a bottle, some sort of magic. Cruz leading off. When that started working, he stayed with it. I mean, I'll give him credit for that, but I have no idea if Derek Shelton can manage. I know as a guy that came up through the ranks as a hitting guru, I know that he certainly this group of non-hitters, he couldn't help them, but maybe no one can because they can't hit. And I just don't know what the formula is. I know Major League Baseball is flawed in general, just by the lack of a basement or a cap. I mean, without any of those things, aside from Tampa, Milwaukee spends a lot more money. I mean, maybe Cincinnati with Tito Francona now, there might be a different kind of resurgence there. I don't know, but what they're doing here isn't working. And as much as I'm going to root hard for Donnie Kelly, I root hard for the guys who wear the Pirate uniform. I grew up here in the 70s, Ed. I mean, the Pirates were one of the best teams in baseball every single year. I got to witness and love 2 World Series championships, and I cannot believe that the last World Series championship was 1979. That's ancient history. And I hate to say that because, I mean, I was around for it. So it's crazy how bad they've been for all these many years. It's just so sad. It really is.
Not only the last World Series win in 1979, Paul, but that was the last time that they appeared in a World Series, 1979. Let that sink in as well.
Yeah.
They have not made it past the divisional championship games, whatever you want to call it. During the '90s, and of course the wild card round during that 3-year stretch in the mid teens of this, in the 2000s. Here we're talking with Paul Alexander of KDKA Radio 93.7 FM. The Fan. Paul, we have about 10 minutes left with you. Let's talk about Paul Skeens, who is now 3-4 on the season in 9 starts. The Pirates are 3-5 during his 9 starts there during that stretch. 53 strikeouts, and ERA is still pretty good at 2.63. But facts are facts. Paul Skeens and the Pirates have lost more so far in his first 9 starts this year than really what we saw all of last year. So my question to you is: Are hitters starting to figure Skeens out, or is it just simply a lack of run support from the Pirates? Maybe it's a combination of both.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the combination of both. We always want to, a football game 60 minutes. We always decide that one call by a ref or one play, one drop costs. No, there's way too many things going on. In all my many years covering the Pirates, what I've noticed with great pitchers is when they realize they're not going to get any runs, they try to be perfect. They try to be so absolutely perfect that they're not just cutting it loose and pitching like they should, like he did last year, because he didn't realize how bad the team was that he had become a part of. I don't think just yet. I think he's an
Yeah.
exceptional talent. I think he is going to probably get better as the year goes on, but I don't think his record's going to improve. I mean, the Pirates are how many games in a row now with 4 runs or less? It's the worst in their history. I think it's 19 straight games where they've scored 4 runs or less. And that's their worst offensive output in their history. I mean, we're talking about historical awfulness, historical suck. I mean, it's just so pathetic. I don't even know where to start. But, Paul Skeens right now averaging less than a strikeout per inning, which is not him. I mean, that's not him. His command has not been what we saw last year. I don't go deep into Paul Skeens' mind, but I know he's the ultimate competitor. No one's going to prepare or work harder than he is. So he'll figure it out. But I think right now, sadly, he probably is counting down the days to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there too. And when you look at his numbers from last year compared to this year so far, 23 games pitched last year for the Rookie of the Year, 11-3, a 1.96 ERA, 170 strikeouts, 29 earned runs given up for the entire season. So far this year through 9 games, as I said, 3-4, 2.63 ERA, 53 strikeouts, and then 16 earned runs given up so far for Paul Skeens. But I think it's a reality, Paul. I think you hit the nail on the head that Skeens is buying his time right here until he can move on to his next contract. I saw some crazy stat just the other day that Pham is making more money than Paul Skeens this year.
Oh yeah,
Which is
yeah, he's
just
on a rookie
you
contract.
scratch your head on that one, right?
Yeah, until
It's
the
crazy.
arbitration comes around, he'll get paid. If he stays here 5 or 6 years, I mean, by arbitration he'll get paid, but it'll still be pennies to the dollar what he's going to make with the Yankees or the Dodgers or whomever signs him. He's a California kid. I mean, the Dodgers probably already have him, uh, you know, in their crosshairs, and they can't wait to have him.
Could be heading to the West Coast pretty soon. Paul, finally, let's talk about this. The USA Today recently came out with an article that reported that the Pirates are one of the most profitable teams in Major League Baseball since they do not invest back into the team. I don't think any of us were shocked by this. I don't think any of us went into cardiac arrest whenever we read this. It's something that we've suspected all along, but it does kind of restir that pot with Bob Nutting and that ownership group of not investing in this team. You mentioned it several times. The roster that is out on this field right now is pathetic, hence why it has resulted so far in a 14-29 record almost 2 months into the Major League Baseball season. But as Pirate fans or a city that does love baseball still, where do you go from here with this ownership group? Is it simply just a boycott at PNC Park? I know I've done that personally. I have absolutely no interest in going to see the Pirates play at PNC Park because of the current situation with the ownership group. Or is it just going to be rinse and repeat as we continue to move forward?
Can't fire the owner, and as much as people want to be involved in boycotts, and people have spent money on flying airplanes with signs, and there's been billboards put up, he's not doing anything illegal. He owns the team. He's given out a couple of contracts to kind of appear as if he gives a what, but he's just winning through the system. I mean, it's like the rich people that don't pay taxes. I mean, if there's loopholes that prevent you from paying taxes, you're not going to pay them. And if you don't have to spend a certain amount of money on your payroll, and you just want to take, Bob Nutting's a taker. He doesn't give anything. He doesn't give anything back. They do these little charity things, and you hope they're legit. But you know what? A lot of players have foundations that you dig deep, like they haven't given a penny to anybody. I mean, they're just shell games to keep all your money, and it's so horrific. I mean, we need a billionaire that just wants to win and doesn't care, if the profit numbers, the profit margins aren't a certain number. We need an owner that just wants to win and will do anything to win and has the money to make that happen. Until that happens, or we get some sort of regime like they have in Tampa, where they draft and develop and they trade very well and they continue to be competitive. But who's Ben Cherington hasn't developed a single hit. There's not a hitter in AAA. There's not a hitter that I'm aware of in AA. I mean, this is what's so ridiculous. You stink at the major league level. Supposedly, you draft very high. I mean, how many 1-1s do you have? I mean, come on. I mean, Paul Skeens, okay. Wow. Are we going to give Ben Cherington credit for drafting Paul Skeens? I mean, he's 1-1. He also, drafted the catcher that can't seem to hit very well. I mean, he was 1-1. So you can't fire the owner. And obviously, when you hire guys that aren't really out of this world in terms of drafting and developing talent, this is exactly what you end up with.
And you have to start to think that Ben Cherington could be the next to go in this leadership group that's trying to develop this team. Because again, outside of Paul Skeens, and let's face it, Paul, you and I could have drafted Paul Skeens. That was an easy call to make. But outside of that, there's been a lot more misses than hits there as well in that Pirates front office. Hey, Paul, finally, I have to mention your Nittany Lions. I know you're a big Penn State guy. You love Penn State. How are we tracking so far this spring? Are the Nittany Lions still on the path to get back to the college football playoff next year and maybe make that next leap to the championship game?
Well, when they raided Ohio State to get their renowned defensive coordinator and paid him over $3 million, the comment I made then, and I'll make it now, and the fact that the running backs and the majority of their players are all sticking around. Drew Aller could be one of the best quarterbacks in the country next year. Penn State and James Franklin, who's 1-14 against top 5 teams, as we all know, he told his team, his staff, and his fan base, we are all in. When you go and take away Ohio State's defensive coordinator, the stat last year that I loved, every team that was first and goal from outside the 5 against Ohio State last year didn't score a touchdown. First and goal from outside the 5 didn't register a touchdown against Ohio State. If this guy can bring that kind of intensity and masterful defense, and James Franklin doesn't get in the way, I mean, he's hard not to like in that he's a great recruiter. He's a great ambassador for the program. He's kind of like Mike Tomlin. It's just you wish you had someone else on game day. I mean, it's just, you got to win those games. You got to figure out a way to beat the team that is ranked really high. But they found their way. I thought they made a nice performance last year. If they don't this year, I don't know if they ever will under James Franklin, because everything's in place. They'll be the preseason number 1. I don't think there's a question about that.
Wow, Penn State preseason number one. I know a lot of folks in Happy Valley would love to see that. And as you said, James Franklin, I like that. I'm going to quote you on that, Paul. Has to just get out of his own way if they want to win a national championship. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, they have everything in place. They have the greatest atmosphere in all of college football. A Penn State whiteout can't be touched, can't be replicated, can't even be in any way, shape, or form touched as far as atmosphere. They're doing a $700 million stadium renovation. They are all in. Now let's hope that that pays off because they've made all their commitments. I love the fact that all of these guys came back, and some were offered some nice NIL money elsewhere, and they decided to stay. That kind of commitment, hopefully, is paid off.
All right. On that, Paul, we're going to end the TroupCast. We'll bring you back in later this summer, early in the fall, and we'll talk college football. How about that?
Can't wait. Always a pleasure, Ed.
All right. Thank you. Paul Alexander from KDKA Radio 93.7, The Fan FM, joining us here on the TroupCast. And a special announcement before we go next Monday here on the TroupCast. Rod Woodson, former Pittsburgh Steeler, will be
Ooh,
here on the TroupCast to talk about his NFL career and the current state of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So stay tuned for that here on oneBURGH this upcoming Monday. Hot Rod, Rod Woodson, the Hall of Famer,
the best.
will be here on the TroupCast. Have a great night, everyone. And I know Paul's excited about that one. We'll talk to Rod on Monday, and we'll see you next week right here on the TroupCast. Have a great day, everyone.